There are a number of industrial-looking wall-mount shelving units currently on the market. These seem fairly attractive, fairly sturdy, and also fairly expensive. 2 and 3 shelf models with widths between 24 and 36 inches are in the $100 to $150 range. This motivated me to try to put together something that was conceptually similar but lower in cost. This is the unit I ended up with. It's made of PVC pipe and fittings, as opposed to metal, so it's much lighter, but still rigid and strong. This smaller unit is actually the least cost-effective, with raw materials running around $55. Expansion to a wider or additional shelf, though, would only add another $5 to $10 to the total. Alright, if you're interested, stay tuned. In the next 10 minutes or so, we'll run through all of the steps involved in this project, from layout and assembly to painting and installation. The basic concept of this unit is pretty straightforward. It involves a shelf with a PVC table screw cap attached to it. Extending from the screw cap is a short, straight length of pipe. This connects to a 90-degree vent elbow, followed by another short, straight section of pipe, which terminates in another table screw cap that's used to attach the unit to the wall. Obviously, there's an identical assembly at the other end of the shelf. The screw caps on the top of the shelf are attached to screw caps on the underside of the shelf, so the wood is basically sandwiched between screw caps. The bottom shelf is essentially the same, just flipped over 180 degrees. Finally, a longer section of pipe runs between the screw caps on the top and bottom shelves, connecting them together. The first step is to decide upon the location of the screw caps on the shelf. I'm going to place them so that the main rounded portion is 1 3/8 in from the end grain. In terms of front to back position, I'm going to locate the cap in the center of the shelf. This is a 1x10 board measuring 9 1/4 inches, so I'm going to subtract the diameter of the cap, which is approximately 2 1/4 inches, and divide by 2. This indicates that the cap should be located 3 1/2 inches from the edge grain of the board. With the layout marks made, place the 2 shelves on top of one another. Line up the edges and clamp them together. Position and orient the screw cap, and then clamp it to the boards. With a 3/16 bit, drill through the holes in the screw cap and through both boards. It's important to keep the bit as straight as possible. Leaning too much, either side to side or front to back, will cause problems. Consider recruiting a friend to help eyeball the straightness of the bit while you're drilling. Since I have a CNC router though, I figure I might as well let it handle this part of the job for me. The lengths of the straight sections of PVC pipe are somewhat subjective. The only one that's actually important is the piece running from the vent elbow to the wall mount. It needs to be long enough to offset the shelves slightly from the wall. A 3 1/2 inch section should work well for that. I'll use this same measurement for the other short pieces of pipe. For the 2 pieces connecting the shelves together, I'll use a length of 1 foot. A miter saw works well for cutting the pipe, as long as the blade is decent and has a fair number of teeth. To ensure a uniform length of the small pieces, I'm going to set a stop. After measuring, marking, and positioning the first piece, I'm going to clamp a block of wood to the saw fence. Now it's easier to accurately cut the remaining pieces in succession. Now that the pipe has been cut, I'm going to test insert each piece into its matching fitting. It's important to be able to fully seat the pipe into the fitting to ensure that the assemblies are correct and equal in size. It's also important that the table screw caps be able to rotate fairly easily on the straight sections of pipe. Oftentimes, there's very little clearance between the pipe and fittings, making this difficult. In these cases, I lightly sand the end of the pipe with 120 or 150 grit sandpaper, retesting the fit frequently to make sure that only the minimum amount of material necessary is being removed. Next, it's time to secure the pipe and fittings together. This will be done using number 8 3/4 inch panhead sheet metal screws. With the assembly temporarily bolted to one of the shelves, I'm going to drill pilot holes and drive the screws. I'll connect the elbow to the straight pieces first. Then, after being spun into the correct position, the straight section and the table screw cap that goes to the wall. At this stage, the straight pipe joining the table screw cap on the shelf should not be screwed together. It should be able to rotate freely. I'm also going to hold off on securing the table screw caps to the ends of the long pieces of pipe. I will go ahead and adjust them though, so that the caps on each end are aligned with one another. With the board clamped to the corner of a table, position a right-angled PVC section on the bottom, a straight section on the top, and join the two together using 1¼ number 10 flathead machine screws and nuts. Repeat this process at the other end. Now place the second shelf into position and connect the straight sections to the other set of right-angled sections. Finally, tighten all of the screws. Unclamp the unit and place it on a relatively flat and level surface. In this case, I used a piece of plywood on the basement floor. Verify that all 4 of the wall mount screw caps are flush to the flat surface. If necessary, rotate them into the proper position. Also confirm that the straight sections of pipe are still seated fully in their screw caps. Finally, drill holes and drive screws in the remaining joints. Now it's time to remove all the machine screws and prepare the PVC sections for painting. In preparation for painting the PVC, I'm going to follow a 2-step process. First, the pipe and fittings are scuffed with a 220 grit sandpaper. This is a fairly light sanding, just enough to remove some of the gloss. After blowing off the excess dust with a shop vac, the PVC is then wiped down with acetone. In addition to cleaning, this softens the plastic, making it more receptive to the paint. After approximately 20 minutes, it's ready for paint. Even with this preparation, be sure to use a paint that's intended for use with plastics. In this case, I'm using Rust-Oleum Hammered Black spray paint. To make for easier handling, I have the pipe screwed down to pieces of scrap wood. I'm going to apply 1 to 2 coats of paint and then follow up with a satin clear finish. I'm going to be mounting the shelf on drywall. As a result, I'll need some drywall or hollow wall anchors. For this particular job, I'm going to use these anchors from Toggler. They're reasonably priced, rated to support a significant amount of weight, compatible with the number 10 screws I'd like to use, and most importantly, are designed so that the screws can be removed and reinserted after the anchor has been installed, and that will come in handy. To use these, you just fold the legs of the anchor, insert it into the hole, and tap it with a hammer until it's flush to the drywall. The anchor is then set by pushing this red pin into the screw hole. I'm going to hold the shelf in position, and with an extended length 3/16 bit, drill a pilot hole through the top hole of one of the table screw caps. The pilot hole is then drilled out to 5/16 in diameter. The anchor is inserted, tapped into place, and set. Next, the shelf is repositioned and a screw is driven into the anchor. Now I'm going to place a small level on the top shelf and pivot the unit upward on the installed anchor. Once it's leveled up, a second pilot hole can be drilled and the anchor installation process repeated. At this point, pilot holes can be drilled in any location where an additional anchor is desired. I'm just going to drill 2 more holes to secure the bottom of the unit to the wall. I'll remove the top left screw from its anchor in order to pivot everything out of the way. Once the remaining anchors and screws are installed, the shelf is ready to go. All that's left now is to decorate. Well, I hope this video was helpful. On my companion website, there's a bit of additional information, primarily a list of materials and supplies used in this project, as well as some product links. If you have questions about this project, you can post them in the comments section of either YouTube or my website. Thanks for watching.